Hello and welcome to the second look from the Anfield wrap after Liverpool have drawn 0-0 with Everton at Goodison Park and remained second in the league table, second in the table for the first time with the same amount of games played since December, which is a bit of a shame. Going over the match from yesterday anyway, and me, Dan Austin, Ian Ryan and Rob Gutmann. And Rob, how do you feel 24 hours later?
Better than I did at 1 minute past 6 or whenever it finished, like yesterday. I'm okay. I think we've had a run of fixtures which were tough. We've gone to Old Trafford. We have to go here. It was never going to be a gimme that we win at Everton, so I'm okay with it. It's 9 games to go, and we're 1 point off the pace. And I think their games are a little harder than ours. My head hasn't gone.
Ian, I thought it was just a shame to go back to looking a bit devoid of creativity in attack after the Watford game, where it felt like we turned a bit of a corner. You could write it off as just a bad week the week before, but to go back to sort of just not seeing or not even picturing towards the end of the game that Liverpool are going to score a goal was really hard to take.
Yeah, that's the frustration, because you're absolutely right. After the Watford game, you think those wrongs that we've seen in recent weeks, they've all been put right, and you kind of fully expect the Reds to go into this game with a little bit of a swagger maybe, and it never ever got to that point where, you know, there was 1 or 2 flashes, and we'll probably come on to the chances, and Salah has 2 really good ones where you think, you know, on another day he takes them, and I suppose you're looking at your big players to maybe step up in some of these really big football matches, and unfortunately we just never caught fire on the day, and it is hard to take. And I think it's okay to feel disappointment. I think, you know, if you look at how we're handling this in terms of how different fans kind of deal with dropping points, you know, I certainly don't think you can start to give in or think there's not a chance we can still do it. You know, it's disappointing, yes. I think everyone's massively disappointed because you go there expecting to win, but it's not over, and there's still absolutely loads to play for in this season.
I watched City the day before, Dan, actually, at Bournemouth. And although they have like 99.9% possession or whatever it was, something ridiculous, they only make 2 chances in the whole game. But they get their goal, just the one, and no one's coming out of there talking about their lack of creativity. We have chances there yesterday. It doesn't work out. Everton throw their bodies on the line. It's one of them. Nobody can be thrilled. It's not a great result. No. And the last 10 where you really want us to go for it and get an Origi-like last-minute winner, that never looked like happening, did it?
No. Rob, Ian mentioned there about feeling like we would go into the game with a bit of swagger and that kind of self-belief. And what struck me was that we were both there, we were both in the away end, is that, and he mentioned about right and wrongs as well in terms of on the pitch, and maybe a month ago, there were questions about the atmosphere. The way it was at Leicester, the way it was at West Ham, the fact that everyone had this tension build up and wasn't enjoying it, and then it felt like Bournemouth, it was different. Old Trafford was really good, Watford was really good, and to me, off the pitch as well, it felt like our end sort of regressed back to what it was maybe a month ago, where the tension is understandable, people being absolutely desperate for the points is understandable and being really edgy about it, but it just felt like a load of manga from our end to me. There were loads of people calling our players names again, which is what they were doing a month ago, and it doesn't help, and I don't see why people are going and doing it.
There was a lot of older middle-aged men like me in that ground yesterday who I think are very, very desperately want Liverpool to win the league, and sometimes it's spilling over into anxiety. I saw lads who were really shouting at our players in frustration, and I thought, that's just not helpful, boys. But at the end of the day, the crowd will react to the team, won't they? And the team weren't as fluent as they could be.
You mentioned the Salah chance, Ian, and that one in the first half, he's more than good enough a footballer to be burying that 9 times out of 10. And if he does score it, it's a completely different game afterwards, innit? It felt like when he misses that one, I sort of felt in the away end, I was like if that's not going in, is this just going to end up being dead hard? And it would have been so different if he just sticks it away.
I think that's it. I think, you know, it was always going to be a tough 20, 30 minutes. You know, you go in there, you know, they're obviously unbelievably keen to stop Liverpool from winning this title, as you would be as a rival. So you've got to accept that. And I thought we kind of ride that spell okay. And I thought, you know, first 20, first 30, it was hectic, it was a bit mad. But then you get that chance where, you know, they give it away centre of the park and Fabinho slots him in. And you're thinking, the most out of last season, you know, he absolutely takes that. And he does try and get it onto his left foot, and he opens up his body, but it's a really good height for pick for the thought. But that was the one. If that goes in then, you know, their game plan then maybe, you know, it goes out the window a little bit. They've got to be a little bit more adventurous. Saying that second half, I thought actually they did show a bit more ambition. Actually, you know, there wasn't a lot to choose between the two teams. But yeah, that was a huge chance. And I've seen people having a go at Salah because, you know, it's a big opportunity and it is a game-changing one. But it's so hard when he's produced what he's produced over the last couple of years, and you're thinking, good players miss chances. It happens in football, and it's hard to take. Don't get me wrong, because you think it's such a big moment and such a big football match. But it's one of them. I think, you know, after that doesn't happen, I think Liverpool can then make different decisions, and I'm talking about maybe the manager, and I think maybe we could have been a little bit bolder towards the latter part of the game. So yes, I'm frustrated by the misses, because there's another one, isn't there? Salah gets in again early second half when kind of Matip goes on one of his crazy runs and ends up finding him there, and then again it doesn't quite come off. But sometimes that happens in big games, and you've got to kind of take it on the chin. But then I thought we could have made different choices to try and win that football match, and I think if we're looking back on that, if the manager's looking back on it, maybe he looks back and thinks I could have maybe done one or two things differently.
I think you want the small details to go for you, don't you? Like on another day, Salah takes the shot a millisecond earlier, and Pickford doesn't quite get his hand to it. There's another moment about 5 minutes before that where Salah is about to score a classic Salah goal. He takes the defender one way, then the other. He sees the goal, he shapes to bend it in the top right-hand corner, but just undercooks it, and Pickford takes it comfortably into his body. It was actually a day I thought of that for our forwards, where the touches were slightly out every time. I mean, the chance you say he misses in the second half, he gets away. It's a brilliant chance, but he slightly loses the ball and enables Keane to make the touch. Same with the Fabinho chance. To some degree, it's one of those days. I thought, you know, we get the first goal, different game.
I think partly what does for us in the end, because the rest of the chances that we have are sort of nearly chances. You know, there's the one that Fabinho tries to take down on his knee, and it's a brilliant tackle from Lucadini to get it away, and it just never quite happens. And there were a few seconds half like that. The Matip one, there's a lot of players around him, he doesn't get a clean contact on the header. But to me, what I thought was the biggest shame about it, Ian, was the decision-making of the players going forward. There were so many times where it didn't develop into a chance because a player makes the wrong choice. So someone should release the ball and keep hold of it too long, or they try and play the pass to the left when the pass to the right is the better pass. And it's easy to say that when you're in the end and you can have a better view of the pitch and stuff. But I thought there was quite a lot of it, and that to me was what was similar to Old Trafford, because Liverpool obviously played better in this game than what they did at Old Trafford. But what was the commonality between the two to me was the fact that when they got around the area, when they got in a position where they could look to hurt Everton, they just made their own choice. Yeah,
I think that's absolutely fair. And I think, you know, you make the comparison between the two games there, and I actually came away from the game at United more disappointed because I thought we were so poor that day, and I thought they were there for the taking. You know, Everton made it quite competitive at times. So, you know, you can draw any game of football, and in isolation it's all okay, but because they've come on the back of each other, and because there's been a number of draws in recent weeks, I think, what's it, 4 and 6 now, that's what makes it so hard to take. But you're right about the point about the forwards. It's just that final ball, or the ball before the ball, or that last key decision. It just doesn't seem to be to be there, to be honest, which is weird, because, you know, you watch them against Watford and it's free flowing and they're back to the best, and you think, actually, you know, this is they're hitting the straps at the absolutely right time here. You know, it's 10 to go and we found a bit of form, but, you know, away from home at the minute, it seems to be a real struggle. And whilst you can criticise that the lads up top, I think there is definitely something in that midfield area where you think you do need more. You know, you need more in terms of goals. You need a little bit more creativity. I understood why the manager went with the three he went with in the middle of the park, because I think most people would have gone certainly with 2 out of the 3 and maybe looked at Milner or Henderson, and he goes with Henderson. But to then maybe not be bold enough to bring on an Naby Keita or Shaqiri, that's what maybe stuck in their throat a little bit.
I think the midfield's interesting, Rob, because they do well to stifle us there, and it's very interesting to me that he goes with Schneiderlin over Andre Gomes.
Yeah, he did last week, didn't he, as well?
Yeah, but he plays Gomes in the game at Anfield, and he's their best player. He's probably their best player that I've seen at Anfield, to be honest. He played really well in that game.
You can run off the back of him, though, and that's the thing.
Well, yeah, but that's what I mean. So he looked to protect a lot more than to get something going themselves. So do you think that, because there was clearly a disjointedness between Liverpool's midfield and attack, there was no sort of duality between them, there was very little link-up. Do you think that's down to him going with Schneiderlin, them playing quite well in midfield? Do you think it's down to our manager making the wrong choice in personnel? Do you think it's just a case of you're playing a tough away game? What do you think?
I'm loath to criticise Jurgen Klopp, because and he almost never disappoints me with the team he picks. I always think, yeah, absolutely, that's what I'd do too. Well done, Jurgen. But I think we paid Everton a little bit too much respect there. I think Jurgen himself may in retrospect think he got a bit caught up in derby fever. I felt before the game the key to not getting getting what we needed rather in this game was to not get caught up in derby fever, to realise this was just an away game against a poorer team that we could get 3 points off. I think he showed them too much respect. I think if it's a team of Everton's level, like a Watford or a Bournemouth away, he plays something like a 4-2-3-1. There's a simple reason because of that disconnect, because there's no Shaqiri and there's no Naby Keita. Everton sit deep, but not too deep. They're able to compress the play perfectly. Yeah, I think the manager will look at himself afterwards and did I get that slightly wrong?
Speaking of the midfield, Neil Atkinson has had a look at how both teams set up tactically. Here he is with his view on why neither team managed to find the net.
Controversial, I know, but we're about to praise Marco Silva, something that's not been happening very much from Evertonians. Silva picked a strange side going right the way back to Cardiff away last Tuesday, and the team he picked, having had a long break, brought Morgan Schneiderlin back into the middle of the park. It seems an odd thing to do, given that Gomez has been one of Everton's better players, and he may well have needed the rest, but he just got it. But you can see, I think, against Liverpool that Silva wasn't just thinking of that game against Cardiff, he was thinking of this one against the mighty boys in red. The mighty boys in red were not very mighty at all, and Morgan Schneiderlin was a massive part of that. He spent much of the first half blocking passing lanes, making the game scruffy, making the game ugly, without touching the ball very much. He could well be the best performer on the pitch in those first 45 minutes. And he does so just through careful patrolling of certain areas of the pitch. This isn't complicated stuff, but it's something that he does well, and something which got him his big money move from Southampton to Manchester United earlier in his career. Of the view that Schneiderlin does a good job in stifling and stopping Liverpool, that Gay does the same thing. The other thing that they did really, really well, Everton as well, was pushing the fullbacks back. Both Robertson and Trent's average positions a bit deeper than you'd normally expect, certainly deeper than we saw against Watford. And throughout the entirety of the game, I think that you're able to say that Silva does that well. The shift to bring Richarlison on and to play him on the right is a clear tactical move. Richarlison has played mostly up front or left-hand side, but he pens Robertson back. Bernard is busy around Trent, doesn't give him a minute's peace. Again, that's seeing that danger and getting his players in a position to be able to execute a game plan. The manager deserves credit. He's allowed to get credit. This doesn't have to be done as some sort of idea of the force of Goodison. It doesn't have to be some sort of idea that Liverpool were just poor. Liverpool were poor, but it isn't just about that. Liverpool were made to be poor to some extent by a good Everton side who put in a good performance. And also, the other thing that Silva deserves credit for is marking time through the game. Marking time through the game is what it was all about to him. He very much set up to get to the hour. When Silva's Everton get to the hour, you see them slowly but surely gaining confidence, make their shifts and look to turn it into a game which they can go on and win. And that's where Van Dijk, for instance, becomes the best player on the pitch as Everton turn the screw just a little bit. Not a lot. They don't over-gamble, they don't commit, but they still do enough to put Liverpool on the back foot and put them under a little bit of pressure. The last thing I'd note is all these game plans, all these ideas, whatever we do with the counters, whatever they do with their unbelievable technology, if lads kick the ball in the back of the net when they should, then you're left to look daft. You know, Silva's fine line within all of this. You know, if someone scores a late goal for Everton, he's an absolute hero. If Salah goes and makes it 1-0 first half, the plan's out the window and he's on the back foot and he looks an absolute dope. As it is, as a manager, he's through the middle of this. Probably not got quite the praise he deserves for the good job that he's done, not just in this game, but against Cardiff and in that patch that Everton had to think, plan, prepare for the end of the season. He's walked right the way through the middle of this. As I say, he probably deserves a little bit more credit than he's getting from everybody, but the focus will always be on Liverpool.
Thanks very much to Neil for that. And back with Ian and Rob now. And Rob, what struck me as we were in the ground yesterday was that as the game went on, Liverpool looked less and less likely to score a goal. At no point did it feel like we were ramping the pressure up or like we had them pegged back. It felt like it just kind of petered out as the second half went on. And to add into that, all three of the substitutes individually made us significantly worse, I thought.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it, when that happens? Yeah, something went from us after the Fabinho chance. I was surprised by the substitutions. I didn't like Mane being taken off. I thought at that stage in the game we had to take everything. We should have ended up 4-2-4 with all the attackers on the pitch and just put Everton to the test. I think the entire fan base was mystified by the Lallana substitution for who's he come on for Mane. Sorry, he comes on for Mane. And my feel at the time was I think the manager thinks we could lose this football match. Something had gone. I think he maybe seen something go in their heads, in their legs. Everton was suddenly getting a little bit more of the ball, and he thought, you know, Goodison was getting up for it a bit. Goodison, you know, there's a game plan. Silva might have said to his lads, just get to 75, 80 and let's see what happens. And I think Goodison was ready to have one last big go. To our credit, they didn't get to really have it, and our defence and midfield stood firm. No one's focusing on that because they're just going to focus on the fact that we didn't win the football match. But I think that's what the Lallana substitution was about. We can debate all day whether he should have gone for Broke a bit more or not, but that's the rationale to my mind.
Ian, even before he gets to Lallana, he brings Firmino and Milner on, and I think that ostensibly none of us have got a problem with that, with those two as players coming on and the changes that he did make. But both of them were just so poor on the football when they came on. They were actively hindering Liverpool, I think, especially Milner, where he has that sort of 5 minutes on the left-hand side, but he keeps twatting the footy out for no reason. He's trying to pass a ball 4 yards to Robertson and absolutely kicking it as hard as he can at the advertising hoardings, and you just think,
it was like 6 successive bad touches.
Exactly, and you think, well, if you're the lads who are meant to come on and win us this game and you can't really pass the ball, we're on a bit of our hard into nothing at this point.
Yeah, Milner had the worst 10 minutes of his fucking life, to be fair. He was dreadful when he came. I mean, you can't sugarcoat it in any other way. He was absolutely awful, and, you know, I quite liked James Milner, and I think some people may have started him over Henderson, but the way the game had gone, I never felt like, I didn't really want to see that sub, if I'm honest. Again, it's back to that, I wanted us to die trying, and a manager might, if he was in, I might say, well, you know, I'd rather have got a point than lose the game. And you can kind of get that perspective, I suppose. But given the situation we're in, I just wanted us to be a bolder, braver, and I wanted to see maybe 4 forwards on the pitch at one time. And let's just ask a few more questions, because when we walked away from Old Trafford that day, I thought we didn't ask them enough questions. So don't make the same mistake again. You learn from that, and this was a chance to put them under a bit more pressure, and I thought we made it just all too easy for them. And then, you know, the subs kind of play into that a little bit. You know, Firmino, you know, people have said before, you know, he's not a great sub at times, but then, you know, you may say, well, I've come on in big games, Stoke away, and Paris Saint-Germain and scored goals, but again, it never really worked for them. But as Rob said, the Adam Lallana one, and people may say, well, Liverpool weren't keeping the ball, but again, there's a football match to be won there. There's not long left. Let's go and try and get those 3 points. And with the greatest will in the world, I mean, I probably wouldn't have Lallana still at the football club, if I'm being really, really honest. I don't think there's a place for him. I don't think he's had such bad luck with injuries that he now looks, you know, a shadow of the player he was when Klopp first arrived. And for him to be a go-to man, it's hard to see where that come from, because before Naby Keita got left out at Old Trafford, he was starting to show real signs of being a top player, the top player that we know he is. And he's going to be for this club. And yes, people may say, well, he hasn't scored a goal yet, but there were real green shoots there that Naby was bringing something to this team. And then you're thinking, Shaqiri's done it in a big match this season. He's come off the bench and turned the game. United at home. So yeah, I'm maybe overthinking it now, but I still can't see why the manager went with Adam Lallana.
We end the match, if I'm right, with which is the midfield we end the match with? Fabinho, Milner and Henderson. Is that right?
Yeah.
Because Wijnaldum comes
with
off.
With Lallana sort of playing between the lines and Salah and Firmino as a 2.
Gini struggled, by the way, I thought. I mean, I don't know whether he was injured slightly, but I thought Gini had a really poor first half.
So we're a very, very blunt midfield by the end of that. No one's focused on it, and he makes one decent pass forward in the first half, but I thought Jordan Henderson blunted us in no end yesterday. No lack of effort, obviously, and work rate and application. But there were several times where he got the ball and the crowd were going turn, and Jordan just wanted to go backwards. And I thought, you can't have Fabinho and Henderson in that formation playing that way, basically as number 6s, and then not have an 8 or a 10 in the team. And that was the problem throughout the game for me.
Rob, the Lallana one is the one that perplexes the most, I think.
Yeah.
Just because it's a strange call. I don't think anyone, if you knew with sort of 10 minutes to go Liverpool were going to make a 3rd sub, there's probably 3 or 4 players still on the bench that you would think would come on before him. He hasn't really contributed to the team for about 2 years properly. There's an argument that he's the most experienced one to bring on, but the players around him have played more football with Shaqiri and Keita, Fabinho, etc. Even Mohamed Salah has played more footy probably with them too, because Lallana's been so absent for the past 2 years. And I don't understand really how he's gone from just a couple of weeks ago calling Naby Keita one of his first names on a team sheet to not giving him a sniff of 2 games where Liverpool need a goal at Old Trafford and at Goodison now. And also Shaqiri, where he had such a positive effect off the bench in loads of games in the first half of the season. And again, he's just not bringing him on. And he's been injured obviously recently, but if you're putting him on the bench, you can do 10 minutes, surely.
Yeah, I mean, both Shaqiri and Keita have had illness and injury. I think Naby is benched again on Old Trafford because of illness, maybe. We don't know, I suppose, and I have to defend the manager because I don't think he's suddenly lost the plot or anything, or can't spot a good footballer. So maybe he's seen that something's gone out of, Kaiser's lost a bit of fitness through being ill for, I don't know how long it was, maybe it was the flu, it was a full week or something like that. But it did seem strange. It did seem like Kaiser could solve all your problems. He could be defensive, he could be the first line of the press. His numbers in his past couple of appearances are really, really good. He shows like defensively and offensively was important. As I felt he could have got us up the pitch much more efficiently. I think Klopp might come out and talk about this. I don't know. Is he due a press conference around about the time we're recording this? But I think he might talk about it because there's no hiding it. Lallana as your first sub when you've got those options is very strange.
Ian, the overriding positive to me was that Virgil van Dijk was, again, by far and away the best footballer on the pitch, unquestionably. He does absolutely everything right with pure comfort. So Everton's most dangerous bit of the game, I think, is when they bring Richarlison on. And it's sort of the second third of the second half, around 70-75, and they get in behind Robertson a few times, and each time it looks dangerous, and Van Dijk just steps across and puts the ball out for a throw and makes it look really easy. But it's a very threatening situation, and on the other side, you've got Matip playing fairly well, but the stuff that he's doing is last ditch. He's sliding in, he's making tackles just outside the area. Van Dijk just made the whole thing look so comfortable, which is really rare for an away game at Goodison.
I think you're right to say, because when Richarlison does come on, it does give them a good out ball, and he's maybe got the beating of Robertson a couple of times, and he puts that one dangerous one that flies across the edge of the box. But Van Dijk's performance from start to finish was, again, it's what we expect now. I mean, we're talking about, for me, the best centre-half in world football, and I don't even see how there's a debate. We spoke on the last show, Dan, when we did one of these, where, it's hard to think of a better centre-half in my lifetime, to be honest, that's played for the club, and he's only been here such a short time, and people might say, well, he hasn't won anything yet, but just looking at his performances, wow, and you can tell he drags lads up to another level, and I think that's it. Matip, when you see Matip next to maybe a Lovren, for instance, it looks more problematic. When you see him next to Van Dijk, not so much. Don't get me wrong, Matip still makes me a little bit nervous, if I'm being honest, but yeah, I mean, defensively, you've got to say, I mean, we've criticised Liverpool about what they've looked like offensively in recent games. But my God, we are elite level when it comes to defence because, what's it, 15 goals in 29 football matches? I mean, that's unreal. That's unreal. So, there's...
You know what it is? It's him and the goalie. And the goalie makes more errors than Van Dijk occasionally. But the pair of them are so calm, and both of them see danger. The number of balls that Everton hit, hopefully down the channel, that Alisson just was on the edge of his box collecting as well. As I said, Van Dijk is a one-man defence. Well, I think between the two of them, they've just got it sorted.
And maybe that plays into what the manager's thinking, when he maybe going, well, we're not going to concede a goal, or if we do, it's only one. So we don't need that many chances normally, given the front three we've got. So maybe that's why I was going a little bit more cautious, thinking that we'll get one, and we just need to take that one because we probably won't concede. But, for me, that's just a little bit too much of a gamble. But, in terms of Van Dijk so far, I mean, he's got to be in the running for the Player of the Year, regardless of whether Liverpool win a title or not.
Yeah, there's almost sort of a parallel universe where I'd be as gutted for Van Dijk to not be a title-winning Player of the Year, because he's got to be Player of the Year. To do it without a title winner's medal would be sad. It'd be sad on so many levels. Where do you begin?
It's 3 goalless matches in the last 4 in all comps, Rob, and it's 2 wins in 6 in the league. So, as much as going to Goodison, going to Old Trafford and not scoring sometimes can be perfectly fine, and it's understandable, it's justifiable in the context. It's more than a one-off, it's a pattern now, and it needs to change. How does it change?
It did change. It changed in the week, and we did Watford. I mean, of the 4 with the 3 draws, it's Bayern Munich, it's Man United away, it's the away in the derby, and the one where we do score, and we score with hatfuls, is the easy one. So is it a pattern? Yeah, but if it is a pattern, and that's the pattern, we do well against the crap, and we won't score against hard ones. We've got no hard away games left, really, none. We've got 9 games left, 5 of them are at home. Of the 4 we've got away, they're all against relegation fodder. So, you know what, I might tempt fate, one of them may keep us out, but they'll have a job doing that, because our record against those sort of sides, at no stages have we been kept out. In fact, well, Brighton, who aren't even relegation fodder, maybe give us the hardest game.
Ian, do you think they just keep sort of plugging away with the same personnel, same setup? Do you think anything has to change, or do you agree with Rob that in theory Burnley is a much easier game, Fulham is a much easier game, you just take your best players there, the way they've been playing all season, and try and get through them?
I suppose depending on which side of the fence you want to sit on, whether you want to have a go at Liverpool or defend Liverpool, you could make a case either way. But I think for me, I'd want to see us be a bit braver when we play Burnley and go with maybe those 4 attacks, because I think you can afford to against a side like Burnley at home. And
there's no doubt you will.
I think absolutely you will, yeah. But I think, you know, the frustration is when you go to Everton, because of their record at home, you've seen Spurs go there and put 6 past them. And other teams, you know, other big sides. I mean, Everton haven't beat a big side at home for a long, long time now. So you're thinking he could have probably been a bit bolder on Sunday, but there's no doubt he will be against Burnley. And I think we have to, you know, assume class tells, you know, so Mohamed Salah, he won't play this poorly for long, you hope, because at the end of the day, we're talking about a world-class footballer here, so you can only imagine at some point he finds that ability to finish those chances. You know, Sadio Mane was unbelievable against Watford. He has a poor game yesterday, but again, you know, you wouldn't expect that to go on for too long. I think Firmino on the quiet had a really quiet season, if I'm honest. And I think, you know, at this moment in time, going into those last 9 games, we're going to need those 3 players to stand up and be counted.
I think what's telling, if we don't win this league, now the odds are slightly against us as well, a bit against us. We will say at the end of the season, one of the biggest factors is that we did not have a 4th lad, at least, to match those front 3. And everyone very much focused on, well, if they get injured, and they're not getting injured. But the fact is we're not able to cope with lack of form. No, Firmino probably should have been taken out of it for 5 games regardless. We should have been able to take one of Salah and Mane off yesterday and be able to put somebody else on. In the way that City can take Leroy Sané out, who's absolutely world class, but if Guardiola doesn't like what he's seeing from him, he doesn't start for 2 or 3 games.
Well, look at Aguero when Aguero gets injured, but he puts Jesus, and Jesus scores an awful lot of goals in that period of time. And they've got, obviously, you know, Mahrez comes off the bench and gets the winner against Bournemouth. And you look at Liverpool, and whilst, you know, Shaqiri and Keita are really, really good players, and you want to see more of them, I agree with you that
they're not front 3 players.
That 4th forward's missing, and that's, you know, that's maybe causing a little bit of a problem.
5th, but that's another show.
Just very, very quickly before we go, one word answer. Do you still think we win the league? Not that we can. Do you think that we will?
I'm not sure it's a one-word answer. You know what? You have to believe. You know, listen, we're doing this right after the game, and you're still a little bit down.
Yes or no, Ian? Come on. Yes, Rob.
Yeah, why not?
Bit of optimism there to end with. Fantastic. No matter what, whether you believe that Liverpool are going to do it or not, they're 1 point behind Manchester City in the Premier League table. They are very much still in a title challenge. They've got the more favourable fixtures. They've got a round of 16 second leg at the Allianz against Bayern Munich coming up. It's still a brilliant time to be a Liverpool supporter, no matter how awful yesterday felt. There's loads coming up on the Anfield app. If you're not already a subscriber to the Tour Player service, have a look at the website. Loads of things on there. Check it out. There's also more on the YouTube channel. There's a Talking Reds from this morning, which had a bit more reaction to the Everton game. There'll also be previews of the game coming up at the weekend. Loads of stuff. Make sure to subscribe. All the best.